much for joining me, Joe. So, Ob Nixilis, you're a relatively new band from what I've seen. I'm guessing the name is actually associated with the Magic Gathering cards.
That is correct, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was literally going to come across like a right geek then, but
yeah. So originally the band was called Cathedra.
Okay.
And that was whenever Manny, our guitarist, and Jeremy, our drummer vocalist, they were just jamming together and they decided to call the project Cathedra, but then they found out that there was like a German techno band, I think, using that same name. So Jeremy, being the Magic the Gathering nerd that he is, wanted to incorporate something from MTG in there. So Ob Nixilis is what he fell on, and we all thought it was a pretty badass name.
Yeah, it is. It does fit. It does sound pretty grimy, doesn't it? So
yes.
That's wicked. Give us over here, like obviously, like we like in the UK, we don't know much about you. So give us a bit of a background.
So, like you said, Ob Nixilis is relatively new. It all started off with Jeremy and Manny. I think they were out at an event and they kind of ran into each other and met for the first time.
Hiya.
Sorry about that. So they met and they started jamming together, and then they were actually, it was in, I think, February of 2020. Yeah. So it was right in the midst of the pandemic. So, or I should say right before the pandemic really hit. And then it really hit, they kind of were just jamming together, writing material. Eventually found a bass player who wasn't me. And then they wrote all the material for our first EP, Grimoire of the Dead. And they had that all pretty well written within like the first, I'd say, 3 or 4 months of inception of the band. I mean, they were just cruising on that material.
Yeah.
And then the bass player, Pat, he left. Jeremy and I go way back. We were in a band together in high school. So we've known each other for like 20 years. So I kind of reached out to him during that time, and it kind of just worked out really well. I mean, for me, at least, that Pat had just left and they were looking for a bass player. So I kind of weaseled in there and then learned all the material. And then we kind of just started playing a bunch of local shows at that time. It was pretty much all here in Colorado area. We didn't really extend too far. We kind of wanted to get a good feedback from our local metal scene and see if we were onto something, or, you know, kind of just get a good reaction and see kind of what we were dealing with here. And then during that time too, we were kind of in the midst of trying to look for a second guitarist.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually found one, and that person left during the recording for Grimoire of the Dead.
Oh, no way.
So we had dual guitar parts set out for that recording. Manny actually had to record both lead and rhythms by himself. The person left the day of recording that we were starting. So kind of left us in a rough spot. So, but we got that all knocked out, and then then we just kind of did local promotion for that EP. We didn't really try and extend it probably as well as we should. We were kind of talking about this the other day, that we didn't really do a good EP push, but you know, such is life. And it was around the time that we really dropped the EP. We were playing shows in our hometown of Colorado Springs, and then up in Denver, Colorado. And we were still trying to find a second guitarist. We really couldn't find anybody. A lot of the guitarists, actually a lot of musicians here in Colorado are just, we have a really good metal scene here. But a lot of musicians play in like 5 or 6 different bands.
Oh, wow.
They're spread super thin. So finding good musicians is not hard to do, but it's hard finding somebody with the time,
the commitment,
commit to, you know, we're not taking this lightly, you know, we want to go as far as we can with this. So we eventually found through a mutual friend of the band, our current guitarist, Matt. he was hanging out with some buddies of ours, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I play guitar." We're like, "All right, man, well come on out." And he fit in so well, and he's been with us, I think, now for over a year. So then with him joining the lineup, we brought him up to speed on all the material that we had, and then he really helped a lot writing the album material as well.
Yeah.
And we
that's cool. I think he could probably like stepped in at the right time then, it sounds, because when you've kind of faced troubles and I suppose like challenges like that, because I don't know about, as you say, there's lots of good musicians, but finding one that has the time, over here, I don't know about you guys, but over here drummers and bassists are like rocking horse shit,
really
yeah.
yeah
You're lucky if you can find them, and they're not committed. So it sounds like Matt steps in at the right time as well, because like obviously after the pandemic and everything like freezing for a while,
yeah
I think that maybe that it's given you guys the chance now to find your feet, and now you're doing what you do you know what I mean?
yeah absolutely. I mean, it was during the whole pandemic, the shutdown thing, it was there was a lot of really good music coming out during that time, because it was playing shows. I know for small time local bands like us, it's easier for us to say that, but for the big time bands, it really hit them hard because they weren't making money.
Yeah.
But for us, we were able to actually sit down and take our time with material. Find Matt, get Matt brought in and get him brought up to speed. And then we were really able to take our time and not feel like anything was rushed. It was real natural process for us.
Yeah, which so turns out good. I mean, I think I'd say your style is definitely in the realms of melodic like Blackened Death,
Yes.
which is one of my favorites.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite genres. I find that the melodic pace sets a lot of moods within that genre, and is very explorable style as well, particularly with the range of tempos and melodic riffs and the drumming style. So, and I think that really shines in your release, which we'll talk about in a minute. So it's one of my favorites.
Well, that's good. We're happy to hear.
Absolutely. Do you guys write collectively?
Yes. It's very much a collective process. And that's kind of speaking from half of the album material moving forward, because a lot of the material whenever Matt and I joined the band was already written.
Okay.
But Manny and Jeremy are always so open and receptive to, if I want to do something different, they would kind of show me the bass parts that the old guy wrote, and then if I wanted to jazz them up, then I was more than welcome to. And same with Matt. Whenever he came in, whenever Matt joined the band, we actually went and re-recorded the second guitar parts on our EP.
Okay, yeah.
Matt had changed them and for the better, and he put his kind of dark, twisted, very atmospheric touch on those. And so we actually went back and re-recorded those tracks. So it's very much a collective process. It usually starts with one of the members of the band kind of having an idea, and then we all just kind of funnel all these ideas into this one riff. It could be something that Jeremy brings to the table where it's a lyrical idea and he wants to roll with it, and then we kind of write the music around it.
Yeah.
We're so lucky that we live there's a lot of bands back and forth between Colorado Springs and Denver, but we're all here in the spring, so we can get together as many times a week as we want, and we can just knock stuff out. So it's very much a collective process. There's nobody telling each of us what to play. We kind of get to write our own parts, and it does take some time to get the final result that we want, but it's part of the process that we all enjoy.
Yeah, so that was part of my next question, really, because like I'm always quite interested in how musicians come to their final kind of product, so to speak. So like if you generally envision how you want your product to sound, or the track to sound, do you know what I mean? But it sounds like it's very much like a team effort with you all.
I think for going into ABHORRED, Two of the songs on ABHORRED were two of the songs that Jeremy and Manny had originally written whenever it was just the two of them.
Yeah.
So those two songs really had morphed into something completely different. And I don't think whenever we go into writing new material, we necessarily have a picture of what the overall song is going to necessarily sound like. We're very, I don't know what the word is. We just kind of like to have options. We like to have, we really like the song to kind of tell us what to play, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So we'll sit down and work on a song, and we may have like, I don't know, 4 or 5 different riffs to choose from for one part. And, we try and be very organic about it and not rush anything. So we'll be like, okay, well, we jam this part, let's sleep on it, and we'll come back and see what we like, the next day. We're not trying to, just pump out a bunch of garbage that, we're not happy with. I think the biggest thing that we shoot for at the end of the day is that as long as each one of us is happy with how the song is laid out and orchestrated, that's all we really care about. If there's one portion of a song that somebody doesn't like, they're not afraid to speak up about it and be like, hey, I think this part's too long, or we should do something different. And even if we may not agree with it, we always explore different opportunities because we may fall upon something that we all overall like better anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of hear that it's a very raw and organic, as you said, kind of sound that you guys have. And I suppose it's really good to have like a vault of ideas that you can, it's a good way of going forward with you mix and matching styles and things like that. So you guys are very, very raw. I don't hear much in the way of sort of I suppose that the right word would be processed sound. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and
we definitely try and steer clear, sorry to interrupt you on that one.
It's cool.
Our sound, we really try and emulate our sound and our tone that we take from the practice space to recording to the stage. We don't like anything to be over digitized. We want it to be very raw, something that we can emulate wherever we are. And that's something that we really take pride in, doing things in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this new offering that you've got, is your debut, isn't it, album, the full-length album?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so ABHORRED. It's fucking face melting. I love it. Like I've listened to it multiple times these last couple of weeks, and it sits in my player. We talked earlier about the kind of the range of styles that you have. I do find there's a particular song on this album, Death Right Shaman. It's my favorite track. But this has like a touch of difference, I think, in the way that you deliver the album. You seem to have some ambient and doomy riffs, really, as opposed to just like, hugely like Blackened Death.
Yeah.
The drums are tight, and it all kind of ripples with your melodic style within this track. And I feel like this gives a different depth of the mood to the whole album.
Yeah. Death Right Shaman was let's see, I think that was, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the last song that we wrote.
Okay, yeah.
For the album. So even from going from our EP work, and then so that was a 4-track EP, and then fast forward a year later, our sound has already progressed and changed for the better. And it's morphed into this kind of, we're really kind of dabbling in different avenues whenever we're composing songs.
Yeah.
Which for us, we really wanted to do to try and set ourselves apart from, the mass produced, whether or not we don't like to really put constraints on ourselves. We're writing material, and somebody writes a riff that's more doomy than black, it's like, well, no, if it sounds good, we're going to run with it. We're not going to say no, we got to stick to this certain style of writing. If it sounds good, we're going to go for it. And with Death Right Shaman, I think that, that song was really and I'm pretty sure I'm correct. Don't quote me on it. I think it was the last song that we wrote together.
Yeah.
So at that point, Matt and myself were already brought up to speed on all the other materials. So this was the one that we really got to all sit down and put our heads together on and really work on. And I think Death Right Shaman really showcases each individual band member's strong suit in this really well.
Yeah, I agree.
It's got heavy hitting parts. It's got the slower parts. There's some more bass grooves. I mean, it just showcases everybody's ability really well, but it just brings it together into, a really strong song.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. It's my favorite. So I'll be playing that on my radio show next week if you're okay with that. So how are you looking to promote ABHORRED? Do you have like shows coming up or plans to tour this album at all?
So right now we have a handful of shows, just kind of set up locally. Towards the end of last year, we were really playing quite a bit of local shows. And after we finished up the record, we kind of made the decision that we really want to be more picky about what local shows we're playing, and then kind of limit the amount of times that we're playing locally, because it's like if we're playing, 2 or 3 times a month locally, then, turnouts aren't going to be all that great. So
absolutely, yeah.
The hard part with that being said, though, too, is, 3 out of the 4 of us work full time. So, being able to set something up as far as a tour is something that we're looking at, and that we really want to do, but we also really want to outsource and push further out from our central hub and kind of get to the surrounding states. And even if we, just do a long weekend and play a couple shows, further out from where we normally go, we can at least accomplish that. But as of right now, nothing's really been set up. We were kind of not rushed at the end of this album. Everything was really well, planned out. We were able to take our time. But then, all of a sudden the album's here and we're like, well, what should we do? What should we do for an album release party, or album release show? And we're like, well, we could sit and wait on it. Well, what do we want to do? And all of us, collectively were like, well, no, we've got it. We just need to release it,
Yeah.
It's a shame if we sat on something that was done, just because we were selfish and wanted to make some badass show somewhere. So we actually just played a show last weekend, and it was a black metal show up in Denver, and that went really well. And then we have a show coming up at the end of February, which that'll be our first hometown show since the release. So we're looking forward to that. So that should be fun. And then past that, we're on Reaping Scythe Records. And so there's a lot of great music in that record company. So we're kind of talking with other bands there to see if we can kind of set up a tour with some of those guys and, kind of work around the US. So hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later.
That sounds killer. Like, yeah, I wish you guys were over here. Let me know when you do get over to these shores. It'll be amazing.
Yeah, we would love to do that.
It would be so cool. So apart from the shows, what's next for you guys? Have you got any future plans, or are you just kind of riding the waves at the minute?
That's the thing, is it was great to ride the wave this past weekend. It was so much fun, but getting that feeling is very addictive. So be back at work writing new material. That's one thing that with the 4 that we have, we're never short on material. Somebody's always bringing something. So we're already, I think, about 4 songs written for our next album.
Yeah.
So writing is still underway. I think, kind of like I was saying before, we're definitely being a little bit more picky about shows.
Yeah.
So we definitely kind of want to take our shows to the next level and not just play anything that's handed to us, but, you know, be a little bit more picky, play locally less. So we, you know, have more of a draw whenever we do.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest goal is, to try and set up something, some sort of tour. You know, we've all been playing music for so long, but we've never really experienced what a tour would be like. So I think that's kind of our big thing that we really want to push for with this album. You know, we didn't really do a great push when we released the EP, so we really want to do a good push for this before we release anything else. So I think that's the main goal for right now.
Fair play. How can we support you?
So right now we have I think we've got a bunch of merch up on our Bandcamp page. That's the best way to do it. We make all of our own merch. We do it in-house just to save money, and, you know, we're able to do it. I can do it during the week, and so that's the best way to do it is, you know, buy a piece of merch or buy the album. You know, we appreciate it, and that goes a long ways, and it's always fun to see, you know, people buying stuff from all over, you know, that really
where it reaches.
It pumps us up and wants us it makes us want to do more. So that's exciting for us to see.
We'll pop a link up as well, then that'll be killer.
That'd be awesome
if you ship to the UK. So
you know, at this point we're shipping anywhere. The only place I can't ship, we actually had somebody from, I think, Russia, and we couldn't ship to Russia.
No, obvious reasons at the minute. No way. Okay, so my last question to you, Joe, is it's kind of like a general question, I suppose, but I think it's interesting to see your viewpoint. Why do you think it's important to keep the many diverse music genres we have now to continue evolving?
So that's a good question. You know, I think, and this has kind of been something that as a band, we've always really tried to shoot for it. You know, individually, we have a lot of very similar music styles that we all appreciate and enjoy. And then also individually, you know, different guys in the band listen to different music than the rest of us.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, where metal music is right now, for us, it's really about keeping the overall, diversity alive, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
There's so many great metal acts. There's so many great subgenres of metal. I feel like the metal genre has been pushed a lot within the last 5 years. And I think that's important. I think it's important for individually for being creative. I think a lot of our inspiration comes from other bands that we listen to. And, you know, without that stimuli, you know, we wouldn't be, you know, inclined to do what we do. But being able to, you know, take so many of these different genres that we hear around us and kind of funnel them into our project, you know, it's kind of our way of paying homage to, you know, these really influential bands that we grew up listening to, that we really want to not necessarily emulate, but we really want to, you know, bring attention to this style of playing. You know, just so, you know, the music lives on. I know that sounds cliche, but, you know, things that we grew up listening to, you know, we want this to still be, you know, around for people to listen to, not only for that, but to also inspire us.
Yeah, to kind of carry it forward with your growth. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that's an insightful opinion, actually, and thank you for that. That's brilliant.
Oh, absolutely, no problem at all.
No worries. If there's anything else that you'd like to add, please do.
I think the only thing is, like us on Instagram and Facebook. That's kind of the big platforms that we use to release any sort of information. And then check our Bandcamp out. That's where we have a whole bunch of merch, and you can get the hard copy of the album, and then digitally stream it there as well, and then also stream it on Apple, Spotify, and all that.